and there's a way to make it happen. One thing that I think is remarkable about Seattle is the neighborhood planning process that took place here originally in 1996, 97, and the follow-up revamping of the plans that's just in process now. I mean, I went to a community meeting in South Rainier that it was unbelievable. There were so many different ethnicities represented there. There were translators for every ethnicity. There was a group of elderly Chinese women who'd come to a meeting there and have been meeting monthly ever since to talk about those issues that were brought up at that meeting. But the problem is we don't have the follow-up. We don't have the carrot that helps these things to happen. And one of the things we talked about in the KUOW meetings was, wouldn't it be great if we had some kind of cultural certification that was like, we have LEED certified for a green building that says you have to provide all of these different things. We could be at the forefront. Seattle could develop a cultural certification that every developer had to provide a certain amount of space that was free space for community use, that would be cultural uses, that was lower cost space for nonprofits that have to be based in that community. And that's just part of what you do if you want to develop in that community. And it can be all kinds of varying degrees. But I think there are ways that we could make this, and in that relationship that you're talking about, Wyking, about institutionalized in all of our communities and developments.
I think a big issue also is that Seattle is very, and the higher up you go, it's very cliquish. So if you're not in the right clique, or you're not, favorable to certain power group, then it makes everything else difficult. Because in our situation, the city was fully, involved in the disenfranchisement, and turning our institution into like a real estate project rather than a place where the community can really come and youth can grow and develop and et cetera.
So, Sara, on the county level, I think all the incorporated cities in King County have some kind of official arts commission, but this idea of a focal person or a focal office that you look to, is that you at the county level? And for the kinds of things in particular that we're talking about, these community-rooted organizations that are a focus of their community, who lights the match to start it?
I do think that is a role for culture. I think I'm going to misstate it, I think there are about 22 local arts agencies throughout King County at the different municipalities, and that's something that Charlie Rathbun in our office has been developing over the years, the capacity of those organizations. We help fund them to do some of their projects, and also he convenes them, I think, every other month to talk about shared issues and things. So it's definitely something that we're aware of and seeking to support.
And before I turn this to Cassie, this idea of, the higher you go, the more it's cliquish or elite or, based downtown or wherever you're based downtown Seattle as well. How do you break through to be, you two are sitting at the table, how do the people that are maybe using the hip hop studio who get inspired and want to create something else, how do they break through that wall and make the kind of place that Youngstown is wherever they want to be making it?
You dedicate yourself to meetings.
Ouch.
No, it's the reality of, and Randy and I have talked about this a lot, that to get that ability to have those relationships, it's not just going and asking for something. It's going and educating people about your community, about why you want to do what you want to do. And then it's also about asking them what they need. What are you working on, and how does my agenda mesh with your agenda? How do we partner on this and make this happen? I mean, I can't tell you how many years. It was 7 years of meetings to get to Cheryl Kaplan.
Well, and I think Wing Luke was also an organization that came from its community.
I think what also was important for us to learn was that, and to reach that point where we knew within ourselves that it was time for us. There had been many people asking and going to the, doing the deals and making those decisions, but we had never gone to ask. We had never told ourselves, why not us? Why we should be there too. It is our time. And that was something that we had to bolster within ourselves. I think when you exist in what could be termed a ghetto, you get that ghetto mentality. And you think, well, we'll just take whatever might come. We're not at that point yet where we're ready, but we had to convince ourselves and to say we were ready. It was time. Why not us?
I mean, Youngstown was literally born out of a neighborhood plan. A bunch of people came together. They said, we need to do something with this giant abandoned building in the middle of our neighborhood that's like a metaphor for our own suffering. And they made it happen. The city supported. And I think if the city was able to play that convener role, that activator role, that we know the arts community in the city has the capacity to do. I mean, the kids in Wyking Studio should have a next place to manifest that facility they want. We talked about the Horace Mann School, when the last time I was at the P.E.A.C.E. Center, and the separate who's going to help them figure out who the allies are, who the others are who can help them inhabit that building and make it work, and where are the allies in the city who feel like that's a priority for the city as well.
Where are they?
I mean, there's lots of people, there's lots of really, I will say, I believe that at the county level and the city level, there are people that work their asses off to try to make neighborhoods as good as they can be. And there isn't anyone connecting the dots when it comes to connecting cultural facilities to opportunities to organizations at the neighborhood level. There are similar conversations going around economic development and housing and station area planning, but I think there is a place for the arts in that room.
There's another thing that's missing that could be useful for organizations and communities, and that is a real estate broker for the arts. And I've been talking about that for a long time too, that we are very quick to say, well, developers should do this and you should do that. And now that I'm a developer, I'm going, whoa, we can't do everything because everything costs money. But it would be so important if we're out there saying we need space, and a developer develops space, and then he's looking around, he can't find a viable organization to lease that space, then we haven't done our job. We need to be there with that list of viable organizations and entities that are responsible enough, mature enough to take on that space and be positive about it and make it work so that the next developer is ready to line up and say, oh yeah, I'm going to do that too.
I think that totally ties to the work we're trying to do with Washington Hall, where the space was bought with the aim of preserving the architectural structure, but For Culture was approached as a partner and took on the role of trying to make it not built from the ground up, like, hey, we have this space and we're going to make it so a theater can move in here and just rock this space, but what does the community need, various communities need, what does the neighborhood need, and how can we make this space with the partner of Historic Seattle serve the people who really need the resource? And that's the one-on-one connections that you were talking about, the being available for meetings is totally the approach that we've been trying to take. So important, I think, to have that space and time, which, again, I think the public sector has a responsibility to use that resource for that investment.
Well, it seems that in 2010, midway through this year, it's a double-edged sword. Randy mentioned, well, actually, both of you, Cathryn and Randy, these sort of focal point people in the city that would be able to be the rabbi, if you will, for lack of a better word, to help you guide you through the system and tie things together. We're at a time where our city has no money for anything and they're just cutting stuff. So that's the bad side. On the flip side, doesn't that make it more affordable that there maybe are physical spaces that could be had, and, you know.
That's when you turn to artists.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I get a call every week now from for-profit developers who have all this space that they want artists to come in and be in.
For how long?
Well, that's what my response is. Are you willing to do a 5-year lease with 5-year options?
And what's the typical answer?
Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes it's, well, been nice talking to you, get back to you.
So this real estate sort of nexus, that could be somebody that would work with this. Well, so how, I mean, this is pie in the sky now. Spaces, affordable, empty spaces exist. Empty spaces sure exist in our city. Holes in the ground exist in our city. What is, if you were going to counsel everybody in this room to take one step, what would you say? I mean,
Collaborate, find partners.
That there's no better opportunity than a crisis. Nobody knows how they're going to fill the budget gap. Nobody. And you're talking about parks facilities that are going to get their hours cut by how much? And Seattle Center trying to figure out anything they can do to make a I mean, there's all these spaces that are going to struggle. And if the artists can, I don't want to say name their price, but it's like, let's talk about collaboration and partnership, and let's talk about what we can do to activate the spaces in our city that are going to lie dormant. Let's become part of the solution.
And let's also support the initiatives that are happening out there. I mean, the immigration building in the ID is going through a transformation, and Sam is here tonight, and he's working on leasing up all of that space. I mean, it's really, if we want to show people that the arts change communities, we need to get behind and support those projects that are in motion.
Did you want to chime in there?
Yeah,
I'm good. It's
just
about
wanted to
time
say
for me to get
the
questions.
The arts, definitely. I mean, we took the UmojaFest P.E.A.C.E Center, developed around the Obama mania, change, be the change you wish to see moments. And we took artists, basically we transformed 2 crack houses in the city into a youth-focused, community-based cultural space based on art and food. That's basically how it happened. We had to go in. These houses were like post-Katrina houses, just rats everywhere. We had artists come that were part of our music community. We had community barbecues every Sunday. People cleaned it up. When the space became inhabitable, moved it inside. Dinner, Sunday dinner, steering committee meeting, and then it just grew from there. Youth came, formed a communiversity, and it really works. And it's on one of the worst, I mean, as far as activity, drugs, and things like that, it's in the heart of that, and it's pulling youth off of the street. We're taking guns out of kids' hands and putting cameras and microphones, stuff like that. So, I mean, I think, like Randy said earlier, the case studies are there. I mean, there's no doubt about it that arts transforms people and communities, but it always is like last hired, first fired,
And Cheryl from Great Cities made this point earlier when we were talking, that the Arts Commission itself and the city's investment in arts started in 1971 when the city was in even worse economic shape than it is now. And the city recognized that value. There was leadership and vision at that time to say, we're going to use this to rebuild the place that we want to be in. And I mean, that's the crisis opportunity moment.